Okay. Welcome back to My Hero Academia Anime Review, episodes 152. This is going to be the first of 2 episodes in a row I'm going to be doing for My Hero Academia for viewing wise, because I found out yesterday they decided to release 2 brand new episodes dubbed. Not one like they usually do. They said they released 2 for some reason. I don't know why, just cuz. This episode is officially the finale for the Paramount War arc. Yes, with this very episode, we are done with this particular arc. Finally, as we've been on the arc since like late season 3. Actually, not season 3. Since like late season 5. And started with our next episode. I'll review that next, by the way. That'll be starting up the Dark Hero arc. And presumably this one will probably be the arc will take up the rest of the season. Oh, if you're curious though, this is episode 131. Izuku Midoriya and Tomura Shigaraki, which is like I said, episode 131, and the 18th episode of season 6. Now, given the fact these seasons tend to be about 22 episodes, like in the case of a couple of anime I've reviewed so far, is around Heroes Legend, and welcome to Team's Glimmercon. My guess is we probably have just a few more episodes left to go. Though I would not be surprised, given how well received the season's getting, that they might greenlight a few more episodes in order to basically adapt full arc. This episode adapts from chapters 304 to 306 of the manga, which is basically adapted from this very book right here. So with this very episode, the manga chapters are collected in this very book right here. My Hero Academia Volume 31 is officially all done and started with the very next episode, 132. We're going to Volume 132. Also, fun fact, this is the third to most recent book release here. Yes, for the longest time, the manga books, which I have been buying for quite some time now, I'd say since the manga has been going on, actually since I got into the anime, I have purchased, it took me a little while, but I did get every single volume released for My Hero Academia. I own all the volumes released here. I did get volume 33 recently, and, well, it's probably by far the only manga I do a physical version of a sort to look for it, because I do for light novels, so I do it for My Hero Academia. It's the only one. I don't do it for any other manga, just this one. So we start off with a very interesting opening, where we're all in Deku's head, where he's talking to the previous host. See, Deku is confirmed to be the 9th host of the One for All Quark. And he's talking to almost all the predecessors. There's even essence of All Might briefly there. He's not fully dead because he's not dead yet. All the rest of people who are in this particular essence, they're all dead. Now, we have the first wielder of One for All. He is speaking this episode. His name is Yuchi Sonoroki. He is voiced by Stephen Fu. You're thinking, that name sounds familiar. Yeah, this is the guy who replaced Bailey Kemen on Rise of Hero, which I've not watched the second season W. And he also placed him on the series Welcome to Team Glimmercon. And the other ones we got here are N. Yes, N. This is the 6th user. And he is voiced by Davin Oliver. Benjo. Well, I believe this is the violent one. Yeah. This one used Black Larry. He is voiced in the dub by Andrew Love. The second, third user, they don't really say who these people are. Of course, well, All Might's predecessor is voiced by, well, it's voiced by Stephanie Young. Yep, voiced by Stephanie Young. Nina Shimura, who is, well, Tomura Shigaraki's grandmother. She is voiced by the awesome Stephanie Young. Yep. I mean, she was the only one we've been seeing for quite a while. Her first appearance was toward the end of season 1. Actually, no, it was actually in season 2 of the show. That's when she first appeared. Yep. Now, basically, while Deku is here, he can't exactly form a mouth. He does form a mouth at the very end. They do discuss basically who they are. They explain the whole thing with All for One, the One for All quirk, and the fact how they're all here. It's because of the first wielder's brother, who is All for One. Yes, that's... All we know is that his last family name is Sonoroki. Now, as for what his actual name is, they don't really say. That's the strange thing about it. His brother, aside from the fact his name is Sonoroki, they've never revealed what his real name is in the series. Nope, not really. That's something I think is kind of weird about this guy. The main villain of the franchise, and one of the big villains of the franchise, and you don't know his real name. We know the name was brother. Yes. So, they explain like various different things with the quirk, the fact that do research, and they explain what happened with the fourth user in this episode where he died mysteriously. What happened to him, he got the quirk. Somehow they'll explain how he got the quirk. He trained in the mountains for 18 years, and then he died at the age of 40. Yep, at the age of 40, due to old age. Because the fact he had quirks in his body, that's what aged him. Now, it is mentioned that All Might had his for 40 years in the episode, which they actually had a line that is correct from the first user. And the reason why? Because he was born quirkless. That was mainly the reason for it. Now, the thing is, Deku doesn't have a big connection to All for One like the other users do, because thing is, he's never really had a true face-to-face conversation with him. He's seen from a distance, but he's never had a face-to-face conversation with him, so he doesn't personally have a hatred toward him like All Might does. Now, they do refer to All Might by his real name, and I think when Deku first heard the real name, he didn't know who it was, despite the fact it's All Might. Yep. And despite all the research, basically, they're doing. Now, of course, also second, third user, we don't exactly know these people's names, aside from the fact these two are the users. They don't speak. We don't know anything about them, aside from the fact they're the users. Now, in the case of the seventh user, All Might's master, who is Tomura Shigaraki's grandmother, she was killed by All for One. We know how she died. The first user, it could presume that maybe All for One maybe killed him. It is possible. Who knows? So basically, they have a test. They have basically, of course, he's asked by, of course, Nimura. Asked by Nina to kill Tomura Shigaraki. And well, yeah. So he basically talk about what happened, the previous stuff, where he sees it could be saved, but not really. And there's a possibility that you could see Deku redeem Tomura Shigaraki, his arch nemesis. It is possible. And this whole conversation, a lot of it turned out to be a particular test. But I really enjoy this opening scene. I mean, as far as aside from a couple extra lines, it's a really good, a really accurate scene to the manga. Meanwhile, though, on the outside, of course, All Might is basically wondering about what's going on inside Deku's head when Hawks and Just Genius. Now, here's the thing about these two. Best Genius, they kind of had met well, he already knew All Might for some time. Hawks, he had never met Hawks before. This was the first time he had ever met Hawks. And despite the introductions, like, okay, let's solve the introductions for later. So they agreed to work with Deku recover. It's like, yep. And of course, Deku was before we leave here. Excuse me, the Grand Trio is alive and well. So we then have Endeavor, Hawks, and Best Genius do a press conference. Best Genius finally seeing something wear besides his outfit, which I believe this is the first time we've ever seen him do this, and probably also the first time we've seen him without his face covered up. You're thinking, really? Oh yeah, really? This is the first time I can think of where we actually see the man's face, like when he's not in costume. Because we see him in this episode where he just, like, you see his face fully when his face not covered up, which is interesting to say the least. Mm-hmm. Because see here, like, he has just a normal looking face with a high collar. His collar was freaking huge. Yeah, this I thought was so funny. The fact that, because he has a high thing covering his mouth, yeah, let's just basically have it where he just decided to cover his face up just because. So basically, Endeavor reveals that Dabi is indeed his son. A lot of what he said is true, except for the fact what happened with Best Genius. That was a lie. Well, Hawks basically explains that part was a lie. By him killing twice, that part was true. He basically just also admits the fact that that he explained with his father. Genius is probably the only one who does not have a secret to reveal aside from the fact he's actually alive. So they basically proposed to turn the superhero schools that are there, the hero schools, into shelters because of the lack of superheroes. And probably also lack of the public safety community who've mostly been disbanded. Yeah, they have mostly disbanded them because the chief was basically because it's basically mostly been in disarray. It's presumed to have been disbanded because of what happened with their leader. Yeah, so then of course because of the whole thing with Deku's quirk, Deku leaves Ua. And we see mostly everybody the same reaction already, except they also added in Momo and Ingenium, who actually were not in the chapter. I do appreciate adding these two in because these two are, like, of all people who were in the class of Class 1A, the only people who are close with him, like really close, know him really well, are, of course, Shudo, Bakudo, Ochaku, Momo, obviously, Ingenium, Frappe. These people know him. These people are the closest friends to, like, of all people in the class. These people in particular, he's very close to, and the fact he gets along with people really well. And the fact that Ochaku got a chance to have her read a letter on the bench, which is happened in manga too. And then when it gets to this particular scene, the whole rest of the episode was narrated by Ochaku, which I'm sure Lucy Christian was very happy to do this because if you notice throughout this entire season, a lot of it so far, she hasn't had much dialogue as Ochaku. The reason is because in the manga, the only episode, the manga she has a lot to do in this particular arc. The only episodes that actually had to give a lot more than like 2 or 3 lines of dialogue in an entire episode was when she fought Himiko Toga. That's it. That's the only episode. This is probably the first episode since that one that she actually had a good amount of dialogue in an episode. Yep. Then of course they jump ahead like in April, like he's left, and then of course he see Deku, he's got a scarf around his neck, his clothes are tattered, and they look over this, must be a gigantic villain, not like a giant Makia per se, but the villain he basically prepares to take him on, and the episode before it cuts to black and has the final act begins, which yes, that is how the chapter ended when it came out. Yep. But a damn good episode. Loved it. And before I talk about news chapter manga, final thoughts on how the anime dealt with the Paramount Liberation arc. Excuse me. Now you might be curious though, how many episodes did this arc officially take up per se? Well, it took up a lot. The first episode they adapted for this was chapter 107. That was the first one they ever did it with. This was basically like the very start of the very arc. They adapted only the first 3 chapters, and then they took a break because basically it was a side thing before the war itself. And then they resumed this with episode 113. And this was like non-stop from this point forward. Now, this arc took up exactly 19 episodes. Yes, 19. So it makes this one the longest one ever for in terms of the manga, but also in terms of the anime. You count 107. This arc took up 20 episodes. 20. Which, damn. And you're probably thinking, how long did the overhaul arc last for? In terms of the anime. In terms of the anime, which by the way in the manga this was 41 chapters. In the anime, this was 16 episodes. Actually, 17 episodes, which is most of one entire season. I think it was most season 4 this one was. And in the case of the Paramount Liberation War, this was longer. This took up the first 19 episodes of this very season. So you're probably thinking, with next arc being Dark Hero, and it's 21 chapters, would this be enough? Because the fact we have about 3 more episodes left to go for the season, you're probably thinking, is that enough to cover this whole entire arc? Well, it's possible, but who knows? It all depends upon how they handle it. Because basically 132 starts at the particular arc, and by 134 they've covered pretty much almost half the arc so far in just 3 episodes, but hopefully they might finish it really soon. Could they finish the last episode? I don't know. If I were Studio Bones, I would give it 1 more episode. Yes, I would give it 1 more episode officially in order to wrap up this particular arc, because I think in the case of what they have here, it's how should I put this? So now move on to news chapter manga. Chapter 301, Dark. We pick up left over last time with the Shigaraki High School Hero Corps students showing up to help out the heroes. and taking on, I think this is All For One. Yes, I think it's All For One. Where it's like they're all just basically blasting him. Of course, Endeavor's doing his best to try to survive being attacked by his oldest son, who is Dabi. And we see Hawks basically helping out here with this battle. The real Hawks. And he kind of in a way almost drops his feather sword he has. And he comes up behind. Looks like we have like two different versions of All For One. Because, well, we see it debut something really interesting. Tetsugoya, the one who's basically a bird, you see him unlock his particular quirk. A full release of Dark Shadow. Dark Shadow total release. Where he uses to nearly consume All For One and in the chapter. But yeah, that is... I'm like... And you're thinking, damn! The Dark Shadow is that powerful? It nearly absorbs All For One? I'm like, that is good. I like this. This is really awesome. Yep, but yeah, not much to say this chapter. It's really good. 10 out of 10. Awesome. Okay, so that's the particular review. I'm looking at the time right now. I could do next episode, but I probably wait until tomorrow this one because it's after 10 o'clock, and I have to get up early because I have to go to work tomorrow. Yes, I have to go to work tomorrow, so I'm going to call it night, and see you all tomorrow for the rest of my anime stuff, and even Comic Corner too, okay? Thanks for you. Bye.